Ah, la puta madre.
Ay, Dios, no
Um,
no, what does Doug say? No mames.
Oh,
oh my
no,
God, please don't make
no,
him say it again.
no mames. Ah, la verga. No mames.
Literally what I heard the whole time in California,
I
even in
repeat,
front of complete strangers.
I think we said at the death museum there was like the split open face. I'm like, oh, no mames.
99% sure it happened at the Death Museum because it happened everywhere we went, Doug.
I don't think Yahira hears it, but Yahira's Hispanic. And you know how we are. Like, we just don't hear things anymore.
Oh no, she turns to, she's like, Douglas, stop saying that. You're going to say it wrong to the wrong person.
Well, there was a novella on, and some girl got her like the monkey grabbed her ice cream cone and threw it on the floor, and then she said something in Spanish, and it just stuck with me. I was repeating it, but I forgot what it was though. It's like,
Yeah, you sent it to me, and I was like, what about a monkey? And you were like, oh, that makes sense because a monkey just threw this woman's ice cream in the novella. Because I just remember it said chango.
I pinches changos con macacos, like something like that. I don't remember, but she was pissed.
Oh my
Well,
God.
we'll censor it just in case I don't know what that last word means. I don't need a. Actually, you know what? Leave it in. Fuck it. This is Slashers, your favorite horror podcast about your favorite horror media. I am Mikey here with my co-horrors, colleagues, and co-cunts, Doug and Aid. Boys and girls, say hello to the MGGs.
Hello, all you MSGs from beyond. This is Doug.
And this is your favorite cohort, horror, A.
No, I think he addressed you as co-cunt.
The co-cunt was my favorite. Now we have to say that every time.
If you're new here, get comfy, take your bra off, and pour yourself a cup of tea because we discuss the greatest genre of all, and that is horror. So, Adrian, it's been so long, my dear. Please tell the audience what you've been up to lately.
Well, what I've been up to, I know, well, it hasn't been too long, actually, because Jason and I have been
Well,
riding
I
the
meant
torture.
since we saw each other.
Yeah, since we saw each other, because Jason and I have been riding the torture porn train together, unfortunately, and
That's
I could
y'all's
kill
fault.
him. Yeah, well, it's Jason's fault, and I said yes, so yes, it is my fault, I guess. But no, it's nice. I'm really happy because I've missed doing episodes with Mikey and Doug. I feel like all month has just been a scramble, and we've all been so separate. And this is the beauty of this podcast because there's so many of us, so that we have these moments where, okay, when one of us can't do it, then another can step up and we can do these episodes and have a great time. And we only do them for our lovely fans and all of our Patreon members whom we love and adore.
2 billion listeners worldwide is what I announced last time.
Yes, 2 billion listeners. It's true. Yes, yes, yes. I'm waiting for my endorsement. Okay. So my thing is that I think it's a perfect end, and you guys can disagree with me. I think it's perfect to end this brutal summer episode or month with Hostel because Hostel, I feel, is always the quintessential what everybody comes back to is torture porn kind of bullshit. And there's a camaraderie in this film, which I feel like what we have as a podcast, we're all, can I say comrades? We're all
Rags.
comrades. We're all,
Ew.
yeah, it's a camaraderie of sorts in the podcast. There's so many of us. And it's just, it feels like if we all sat and watched this movie together, it would be like if we all went out to Europe and we're fucking around and just talking shit all weekend. I don't know how I feel about that.
And we
but
all get chainsawed fingers and bones and stuff.
I would love to get fingered with a chainsaw. No, I agree. And I also like, because we do have, quite a handful of co-hosts, I like that sometimes we don't know the combination. And I think people have different chemistries with different people. So it's fun to see, like, it took forever for you and Jason to do a podcast by yourself. And when it first happened, I listened to it. I was like, I actually really like them together.
Yeah, there's definitely a very good dynamic when we switch it up.
Yeah.
So let us know, guys, at listening, like, what's your favorite combination?
Your
problem with
favorite
that, please.
pairing or Eiffel Tower, which is canon. Yeah, and Doug, is there anything new with you? Have you seen anything worth mentioning that is horror related? Don't be like last time and say The Whale.
Well, The Whale's horror,
Here we go
considering who
again.
you ask. Yeah. No, well, I did see Night Mother. That's considered horror. I watched that the other day.
Oh, by the way, that'll be there on Saturday for you, Doug.
Ooh.
And your package, Mikey, will make it tomorrow.
Yay!
Oh, thanks,
So-
Aid. Yeah. So that was a treat to me. Now, Mikey, you should see Night Mother or at least read the play or something. But now it had Sissy Spacek and well, the other lady, I don't remember her name. The one who played
Mrs. Robinson.
Mrs.
right?
Robinson. Yeah, there's only 2 actresses in the entire movie.
Yeah,
Oh wow.
But yeah,
that's the whole play.
yeah, and the thing is, I guess it fits in for brutal summer, but more like homey, I guess, like kind of like it's so weird because I watched it as a kid. I remember my mom was taking like a college course and she had to rent the VHS from the library because that was one of the required movies. I think I was like 12 or 13 at the time. And that movie still like it's if a kid was to watch it, they'd find it boring. But the ending stuck with me, and I had the DVD, and I'm like, I gotta rewatch this, and I watched it again when I was working from home. And when it comes to like the last 15 minutes, like it's all dialogue. It all takes place in like the kitchen and the living room, and it's all dialogue based. But just the and I don't feel bad for Sissy Spacek if you know the play, because I feel like a lot of actors and stuff who do acting classes go over it, but I feel bad for the mom. That's who I feel bad for. So.
It is a tearjerker. I actually it occurred to me when we were talking about it. So I had read it in high school for I guess maybe for English or drama. I can't even remember because high school now. I'm coming up on my 20th reunion soon, so it's a blur.
Boom.
I know. Thank God my coconuts have not fallen. But
Well, I cuss a lot, but go ahead.
okay, it does. Ask my friend. Anyway, so when I read Night Mother again for my death and dying literature course, I took a literature course in college, ladies and gentlemen, with the themes of death and dying, and which was an amazing class. Like I can't tell you how much I love this class, and because I obviously am a lit major. But Night Mother was on there, which is why I had the play, and I actually just mailed it to Doug because I think Doug should read the play. Because the play in and of itself is, I mean, you just sit and cry. It is so compelling.
Well, because I mean, when I watched the movie, like afterwards, like I mean, I was paying attention up and down, but after it was over, like I was just like I went to the bathroom and I'm like, why am I crying? Like I'm just like. And
it's
one of those
awful.
things. It's like emotionally, and it's all like, and you don't even see a lot of action and stuff like at the end. It's all just sounds and dialogue. So really, the dialogue is very. If you're into like truly like emotional family drama, like it'll get you. Like seriously, wow, I haven't had that in a while.
It's an amazing play. It's very short. It's very short. So, Doug, when you're done with it, you can mail it to Mikey. It is not. I recommend everyone to read it because it is a very good character study and a mother-daughter's relationship and the turmoil that comes with mental illness and all of those things, and just having to, it's going to make you cry. I think that's horror when something sticks with you and you're scared of it. That is true horror. And so I'm glad you mentioned it. I'm not watching the fucking movie, Doug. I read the play twice. I'm good. And that's why I was happy to get rid of it. Goodbye.
No problem. But I think it's weird because that it's like a drama, but that fits in with like Cruel Summer because it's not cruel, but it's emotionally cruel because the mom is gonna get the repercussions of emotional drama, emotional.
It's a lot of trauma, lots of trauma. Yeah. So, Mikey, you'll get it afterwards.
Yeah, I'll send it.
Bang! It reminds me. So it's funny I'll say that because I also was going to bring up something that I started reading. That it's not straight up horror because I was like, okay, I read a bunch of horror books recently. Let's kind of like taper off and just read something that's just fiction. Maybe it could be like suspense, but maybe let's just read something that's not horror just to broaden my taste. And so my Kindle was like, oh, you should read this book called Earthlings. And I was like, oh, what is that? And it was kind of not super short. I don't know how it translates into like a physical copy because I just had the online version. But it seemed really short, and it has a really cute picture. It's by a Japanese woman, so I was like, that's cool. I want to read a Japanese story. And the picture is just like black cover with orange spots, kind of looks like outer space. And there's like a stuffed porcupine or hedgehog on it. And the summary was something like, this young girl thinks that she's a alien from a different planet because she doesn't fit in, and she talks to her stuffed porcupine, and she makes like a deal with her cousin about survival, and like she's a grown-up now, and she's married to like an asexual husband, and so now she has to like fulfill her promise of with her cousin. And I was like, well, that sounds kind of cute and sentimental. It might be a little sad based off of what I'm reading, but bitch, the author's name is Sayaka Murata. Girl, I don't know what she needs, because this book,
Therapy.
I'm not, well, like, this might have been her therapy. I don't know what she went through, but I'm not a fan of trigger warnings, but this book should have had a trigger warning. Just saying, this looks cute, but don't get it twisted. If you guys want to read this book, as far as the listeners go, I'm going to spoil some things. So skip forward about 2 minutes, because in order for you to get the whole scope of what's going on, it starts off when she's 10 and she's in love with her cousin, who's also 10 or 11. They like pretend that they're married, which like when you're young and stupid, whatever, it's fine. And so she talks to her little porcupine stuffed animal, and she's convinced that she's an alien because she doesn't fit in this world. And she sees how people are just made to be working in a factory. Women are made to have babies, and men are meant to put babies in women. And she doesn't know much else about that, but she knows she doesn't want to be part of that. So it has like a political stance on that and everything. Then she very extreme sexual assault happens between her and her teacher. I was reading it and I almost stopped because I was like, I shouldn't be reading this. Like, it was extreme. And then after that happens, she has sex with her cousin, and because she doesn't think it's wrong, she just wants to be in his skin because she loves him so much. And then she grows up, and my thing is, I feel like a lot of this is like her trauma, like talking to the stuffed animal and saying she's an alien, she's not from this world. It's just like her trauma from getting over the assault, because she doesn't know exactly what happened. Gaslighting extreme from the teacher, where he's like convincing her that it was her idea to come get the extra lessons, and so don't tell anybody about these lessons because they'll get mad that I'm not giving anybody else. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, what the fuck am I reading? And then the second half of the book is when she's an adult. Oh, and she kills him, by the way, when she's 10. And then second half is when she's an adult. Yeah, she's an adult with like no motive to get married and have babies. So she finds this guy from a website where they just get married to shut their parents up. They live in separate rooms. They live in the same house, but they have separate rooms. They eat separately, but on the surface, they have the facade that they're married. And then she starts telling him about how she's an alien. And so he starts believing it, and he's like obsessed with it. So he's like, well, let's go talk to your cousin because I want to go see this house you grew up on. So they meet up with the cousin that she had sex with, and it's kind of weird, but then they're talking to him and he thinks he's an alien too. Basically, to wrap it all up, they go and they run away with each other, and they get attacked by someone and they accidentally kill this person. Then they start eating this person. They turn to cannibals, and then they're like, oh, this is just the earthly realm. This is just a skin suit. We're just going to eat this for nutrition. We're not going to have sex because we don't subscribe to earthly pleasures. At the end, they all start eating each other, and they come to try to rescue them, their family. And they're just like a fucked up Resident Evil combined creature that comes out. I was like having a panic attack, bitch. And it ended, and I was like, this is not a horror book, but this is the most disturbed I've ever been reading something.
Oh, so it was like David Cronenberg meets Herman Yao.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, it sounds like the Evil Dead Rise director took some of that at the end with the
Yeah,
Fan
that,
of
it,
Roth.
yeah.
it kind of reminded me of that also, but like it was just so strange because they don't feel the pain, but they're like, oh, they're trying to describe to each other how each other feels, how each other tastes, because they're like, who should we eat if we're in a situation where we're gonna die? And like they're like, I don't want you to do it, I don't want you to do it. Well, let's find out who tastes the best, and we'll have them next. So they all just start eating each other and start enjoying the feeling, and they just don't stop until people come, and they're just this amalgamation of flesh. A very strange book. I don't know how I like it, but it's just, I haven't rated it on Goodreads yet because I'm still letting it stew. But ooh, girl, if I wanted to take a break from a horror book, that was not the book to read.
Man, well, this is like a group therapy session on Zoom right now. This is nice.
Well, okay, so I just Googled it, and I'm probably going to get flagged by the government for this. But when you resort to cannibalism, you can, what is commonly known in New Guinea as kuru, that is a very rare disease. It is caused by an infectious protein, prion, found in contaminated human brain tissue. So I feel like a lot of people who resort, or in these types of stories who resort to cannibalism, are actually being susceptible to this Kuru disease.
Well, it's almost like mad cow disease, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a
Yeah,
human version of mad cow disease.
pretty much. And I'm sorry, the government, please. I was only doing this for research. I literally Googled, can you get a disease from cannibalism?
You can. There's a movie about that. It's like a Spanish movie. It's called We Are What We Are.
Yeah,
So-
no,
Oh,
Somos
yeah.
Lo Que Hay. Somos Lo Que Hay. And We Are What We Are is the English version, I guess, of it.
Yeah.
Which
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that movie.
I
Great
love it
movie.
too. Yeah.
Good cannibal film.
Mhm.
Next Cruel Summer, we'll do no, actually for Thanksgiving, let's just do cannibal theme movie.
We should do. I don't know why we don't do it, but I'm not doing Cannibal Holocaust. I fucking hate that movie, so we won't do that. But we'll figure it
no,
out.
we won't. We'll do
There's
legit
good
ones.
cannibal films, Ravenous being one. So let us know.
Blood
Slasherspod.
Diner. Have we done Blood? I'm sure we've done Blood Diner.
You and Jake did Blood Diner. That's why I watched the movie.
Oh yeah.
Blood Diner. That's the one your friend Jackie did.
Yeah. Like all.
I've
yeah,
seen
yeah.
it. Thank you. I've seen it. We don't need to revisit that one. Well, anyways, I'm sorry, Doug. This episode, we are shutting the chapter on Cruel Summer. Thank God. Jason will
Thank
talk about this
God.
later, in which we review good yet not so fun movies to watch. First, Jason took us to Japan for an audition. Then Ade strolled us into France for a look inside. Then we went to Korea and saw the devil. Then Doug decided to take us to China and South Africa, where we survived the Ebola syndrome. And now we fly back home to the land of the free, if you're not a woman or minority, for Eli Roth just to ship us back to the ickiest hostel in Hollywood. I mean, Europe, excuse me.
Yeah. Same difference.
Yeah. But yes, so that means that we are reviewing 2006 Hostel. Bow, bow, bow. So 2006 is when I graduated. So I was 17 or 18. So I was a big boy watching this movie without having to buy a ticket to sneak in.
I too graduated in 2006.
Whoop.
2005. I thought came out in 2005.
So it was released at a film festival at TIFF in 2005, but the theatrical release for all of us would have been January of 2006. So technically, Mikey, you and I had still not graduated because we would have graduated later that year.
That's true.
And we were just discussing this earlier. How the hell did I get into this movie? How did I buy tickets for a different movie and go?
We still would have been 17, no?
I was 17. Yeah. So maybe we just bought I don't know, because our theaters were being stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had to be there with a parent. Like you couldn't just go watch it. So I had to buy like tickets for, I don't know. I saw it with one of my best girlfriends at the time. And she didn't want to see it. And I made her go in and watch it.
Was this Claire?
No, it was Mandy.
Oh, okay.
I would have taken Claire, but Claire throws up. Last time I watched a horror movie with Claire, it was Final Destination Part 3, and she had to go run and throw up in the sink.
She didn't throw up at
Ew.
tanks.
No, she should have.
Well, so I know all of us have seen it for sure. Ade, you mentioned before the show you've seen this like 5 times. Even though when I first saw it, I remember really liking it. I haven't watched it since I saw it yesterday. And watching it for the second time, I was like, I don't remember any of this. All I remember is the Achilles tendon slicing. Doug, how many times have you? This is not your first time, right, Doug?
No, I've seen, in fact, it's funny. If you guys are watching the video, I have a picture of the PSP version of the movie. You remember when PSP came out? You can buy the little discs. Yeah, and they like go in the slot. But and I'm remembering now the first time I watched Hostel was when I was. So I didn't see it when it came out. I think I seen Hostel 2 first, and then I watched the first Hostel on PSP. So I don't know where it's at now because those things are microscopic. But yeah, that's the first time I remember seeing it was on a PSP UMD disc. So isn't that crazy? Because yeah, this was put up by Sony and Lionsgate, which I don't think they're doing much collaboration anymore. Sony and Lionsgate are two complete separate things.
Yeah, Lionsgate doesn't even release that much stuff anymore. Every time I see a logo, I'm like, oh, I remember them.
Yeah, because Lionsgate was the thing. Like back in the day, especially in the early 2000s, when you saw Lionsgate, you knew that it was going to be a horror film.
Yeah, and Dimension and like all those.
Well, Saw came out around the same time because I remember Saw and Hostel were like the two that somehow people they're like, oh, is that the one where they just torture people? And yeah, I've seen Saw before. Yes. I'm like, no, that's not the same. It would always get them confused.
So this is, I would say if we're going to talk about Hostel, they coined the term torture porn because of the films that were coming out, especially in late 90s, early 2000s. And I did an entire episode with Jake where actually, let me pull up the notes really quick for that episode. Oh, wait, I don't. I probably deleted them. But anyways, doesn't matter. What I'm saying here is that when we talk about it is an American film, right? Like I hate to call it an American film because it's not filmed in America. It's filmed in Slovakia and in Eastern Europe for the most part. But it's an English speaking American. It's about Americans. Like when you think of torture porn, what's the first movie that comes to mind?
Hostel.
Hostel, right?
Even before Saw.
Before Saw. And did Saw come first? Yeah, Saw came first. Yeah. So the reason people went and watched Hostel back in the day, Mikey, and you probably remember this. I don't know if Doug does because he watched it on his PSP. But when you went to go watch Hostel, the two big things that drew your ass to the movie theater: one, Quentin Tarantino presents; two, something with Saw, and you went.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so we wanted something that was visceral. We wanted something disgusting. We wanted this, and it delivered. And honestly, it truly delivered. And the beauty of this film is that you watch the first, whatever, how many minutes is it until we get to anything disgusting?
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's like wild. 40 minutes or so. Because I was about to say that too. This is like two separate movies in one. The first one feels like old school, not old. There's a movie called Old School. And it feels like
Euro Trip?
Euro Trip. It feels like something like that. And then all of a sudden, it just once they get into like the old factory, that's when it's like a totally different movie. Less dialogue too.
Yeah, because I was actually going to say we'll talk about the movie in two different parts, basically while they're partying and having fun, and then when they actually get into the torture chambers, because it's pretty much split directly in the middle. I think it's about an hour and 30-ish minutes. I think it's not anything super long. But you mentioned that we kind of were drawn by it because of Quinten Tarantino, which I actually forgot he like presented it until I saw it yesterday and I saw his name pop up. I actually was a huge fan of Eli Roth because of Cabin Fever, and also just seeing how hot he was. And I just
he is hot. The Bear Jew.
51 at this stage. Jews are all hot. Sorry for anybody listening who's Jewish. That
I know.
By AIDS statement.
I call Dan the Bear Jew sometimes.
You didn't find it annoying? Like anytime I saw Eli Roth, I don't know. Like I guess it's just one of those things where he's just fake. I'm like, shut up, you douche, bro.
That's what got me into him. But no, but so he's 51 and he looks amazing still. He's apparently a little problematic, but all men in Hollywood kind of are to some extent. But with that said, I was a huge fan of Cabin Fever. I wanted that same kind of vibe, which when I was young, I didn't see it, but watching it yesterday and watching Cabin Fever last month for Frightmares, I was like, holy shit, like the vibes are there. But also when I was a kid, I was a little turned off that there was no like female final girl character. I don't care about that so much now. But for some reason, when
Yeah.
I was young, I wanted to see, a woman overcome it all. And I was like, what are we with these guys? These gross men.
Well, you do get the 8. Oh wait, never mind.
Yeah, not for long.
Well, okay. My thing is, so with Cabin Fever, actually, Mikey, I'm glad that you mentioned that because we don't need final girls for these movies. We actually have that with Hostel Part 2.
Mhm.
That will, I mean, we could talk about Hostel Part 2 later, but with Cabin Fever and with Hostel, I feel like both those films are time capsules of the early 2000s. This is how people behaved. So you didn't see a problem with it because that's what it was. And
Yeah.
so when people watch, I feel like especially if you watch Cabin Fever, not the bastardization remake that Eli Roth gave, consent to with the same
No.
script, and then it starts off with the same score from The Shining. I'm like, who the fuck? Then when the minute I heard the Shining song when I watched that remake, when it was making the little, yeah, and I know that's not the Shining song, but the beginning with that song comes on when you're watching The Shining.
Yeah.
I'm like, I turn that shit off. Fuck that. Fuck this movie. It's the same script, it's the same thing. Eli Ross doing it 10 years later. Maybe he was trying to take out the homophobia. I think our biggest, so we're going to just let the cat out of the bag right now that these films were made at a time where people made lots of homophobic and xenophobic and lots of these slurs that I'm not excusing them at all. But I'm saying that's what everybody did. And we've learned from it and we've moved on. But this
Yeah.
was that time. And honestly, you can blame Trey Parker and Matt Stone for their fucking shit that they've done, and they're still not canceled, and they're still running around making South Park and all of their offensive things that they do. And it's totally fine because it's satire. Well, this is also satire, honestly, because I
Yeah.
mean, I watching this movie last night, watching how they spoke, I felt like it was kind of making fun of how Americans behave in Europe or how they behave when they leave the country because they think they're so fucking entitled and they get what they goddamn deserve. I don't know how
Yeah.
you guys feel about that.
Well, it's very much this isn't me saying it. This is what people usually say for these guys. This is very much boys will be boys mentality. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, there. And so before we kind of get into the controversy real quick, in case you haven't seen this, Hostel is basically about two Americans that go to Europe for like a backpacking trip. They meet up with a guy from Iceland who's like a little older than they are. Because when I first saw them all together, I was like, one of these things is not like the other. And so they're traveling and they get to I believe they're in Amsterdam, and this guy they're and this is maybe it's just because I'm gay. I don't know. Big eye roll for me is I would never be in this position because I don't go travel somewhere just for sex. Like
Yeah.
the girl at the bar next to me is fine if I was straight. I don't need to travel to another city because there's other girls there. And one of the things they say is, they use I'll bleep it out for Aiden and Jake's sake, but they say a lot. And they get kicked out of the club and they're like, oh, this is a bar. There's nothing but sausage in there. And I'm like, that's fine, I'm
Yeah.
going. So that's where the controversy is. The controversy is that it's very homophobic and I didn't see
But
anything against Jews, but there was kind of a comment about Asian chicks that like was a little untasteful.
yeah, Ollie doesn't like Asian girls, so why would he be
Yeah.
with her?
Yeah.
And but again, that's his preference. I'm not
Yeah.
Well,
excusing
joke's
Yeah.
on
Ollie.
them. They're wearing short sleeve shirts with long sleeves underneath. So
Oh, I still do that. That's how you know I'm from that time.
It's a product of its time. Like we're not going to just sit here and say that nobody said these things. People said these things. And that's how they spoke and that's why they talked. My issue is that like if you're gonna hate this movie because of those things and not see it. I think it's more of a learning experience. I don't think this
Yeah.
movie is so much. It's not homophobic. I honestly don't think that anything that Eli Roth does is very overt. I think that,
He's a shock jock.
yeah, he's showing you this is a picture, this is a portrait of 2006, and this is literally how people behave. This is how guys behaved. I remember I've known so many guys like Oli and Paxton and Josh. Like I know men like this. Like, and when I'm watching the movie, I know they're going there to get laid and they're so excited. Like I didn't like when I was watching the movie at that time, I didn't think I wasn't scared for them because I thought, oh, that's what they would do. And how
Yeah.
fun are they like they're having the best time, right? Like it's not I don't don't dismiss this film because you think like it's all witch hunt, like when people witch hunt friends and all this stuff. I'm like, this is not a witch hunt. This is a
No.
portrait. This is what it was. And Mikey, you remember. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying like I don't say the F word.
I do.
You do. And so
With my
does
friends.
Tracy.
And so this is why I don't think it's homophobic, because Eli Roth has said this as well. He wrote the script as if these guys are friends and they're going to use the language they use when they're alone together, that they're not going to be judged. I'm like, that's true. Me and my guy friends, we say the F word because it's funny. We don't call, we would never be like, hey, you word. Like that's a different story, but
Yeah.
like it's it's kind of funny to use it as is it adjective? Are you describing something? I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not an English teacher.
It's an adjective, yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
even gonna tell you what we called each other in the military. So
Well, but that's what I'm saying is that there is a quintessential language between groups of people. So
Yeah.
this is honestly, as Doug would say, Hostel is honestly a character study, like a character study of white cis males. Well, not necessarily Paxton because he's clearly Hispanic, but
Yeah.
white cis males in early 2000s backpacking through Europe. They're going to say these things. And honestly, I used to say those things too. Like everybody said it. Everybody fucking said it. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't, and it was never to disparage or be homophobic.
Yeah.
It was a slur to piss you off, right? Like a derogatory thing to upset you or like to say at you. That's what it was. And we've learned from it.
Yeah. And I think what also doesn't put a bad taste in my mouth, because maybe if it didn't have this, I would be like, maybe it is, maybe he is a little iffy on the gays. But they had a whole subplot of Josh's sexuality that is never super touched upon, because again, in 2006, it wouldn't have really been liked that well. But and also Paxton is using these words, and so basically Josh has like this subtext of maybe he's actually gay or bi, because he's very hesitant to sleep with the women that Paxton brings to him. And every time Paxton uses those hyper masculine words or calls something gay, it is just more reason for Josh not to say anything. And he blows up when the guy on the train puts his arm on his hand on his leg when he asks him a question. And so I was like, oh, red flag. And then they have that really sweet moment, even though he's a psycho killer later on. But they have that sweet moment at the bar where he's like, he goes and apologizes for yelling at him. And he talks to him about his family. And he's like, I love my daughter, so I chose the life for her ultimately. And he said something like, you should choose the life for you. So there's big hints that have not been confirmed nor denied that Josh maybe is at least bi, because he does sleep with the woman later on and seems to enjoy it. But it seems like he is questioning some stuff.
Well, I think that I agree with you there. I don't think that Josh really wants any women. And it's honestly, it's confirmed when he's talking to, which by the way, if we're talking about trivia, so the character that in question that we're speaking of,
The old man?
John Vlasic, he's the Dutch businessman.
Yeah.
He doesn't speak any English. All of his lines he memorized in English, but he has he never spoke, which a lot of people do that. So normally
That's
you can
awesome.
tell if you're a bad actor You're like, that person doesn't even know English. They're just
Yeah.
memorize. He fooled me, so good for him.
Yeah, he did
Um,
amazing.
amazingly. And which is great because English is it's an ugly language. Like English, German, like these are ugly languages. Like
Yeah.
the romance languages are beautiful. Like when you hear it, you're like, oh my God, it's French, Spanish, Italian, whatever. Then you listen to English and German, you're like, ew. Or Deutsch. What sprechen Sie Deutsch? Yeah. So
That's
my
scheiße.
Oh my God, that's German, Doug.
Same difference.
but so and I think that's where you look at the film and it's so easy to kind of judge it now, but I think now it's more of, and I don't think, and I know that Eli Roth wasn't meaning this with Josh at all. I don't think he was, but it is true. You watch it now. Josh has lots of questioning with sexuality. He deals with Paxton, who's constantly bullying him, calling him the F word. Uh, Oli, who is on board, like whatever. So
Yeah.
you're dealing with hyper masculine men, and then you're dealing with Josh, and Josh is going through a quote breakup. So
Yeah.
that's why he's behaving this way. But is the breakup is an excuse, and we know this, and we know this now that watching this, because when he touches that guy later,
Yeah.
he touches him in not in an affectionate way, but in a way that
Like a sympathetic.
in a sympathetic way, but they both kind of understood each other in that moment. And
Yeah.
I think that if events did not unfold the way that they had, that maybe Josh would realize why he doesn't, because that the sex worker, she was beautiful. Like, what was wrong with her? Why couldn't he just go in there and just do what he needed to do? What
Yeah.
was that?
Without all the drugs and the drinking, because I think that's why he eventually let it happen, is because he was so fucked up.
He
But
was so
also
fucked up.
because
Yeah.
Paxton was next to him doing it too, which is funny because Paxton was like the bro, like, oh, that's gay, that's gay. He was doing all the gay shit, being in devil's threesomes with Oli and the other chick. Like they did an Eiffel Tower, which I've never seen on TV before. And so it's funny, and it's funny because there is a guy that used to talk shit behind my back at somewhere that I used to frequent, and super sweet to me in my face, used to talk shit about how like me and my family are gross. Turns out he would frequently have a threesome with a man and his wife, and it freaked him out so much that he went and became like a born again Christian. I was like, interesting. Sounds like you have some self-reflecting to do. Anyways,
Freaked him out. What happened? Tentacles came out.
I have no idea. But yeah, so I just thought that was kind of funny because that is typical, like the guy's always talking like, oh, that's gay, and oh, bro this, bro that, which bro is like my most hated word these days.
Bro
So
or
this
bruh?
movie, both.
Bruh.
Bruh. I like bruv. When the English people say bruv, I think that's cute because it's like brother and love together. And by the way, scenery, 10 out of 10. It was so beautiful wherever they went. I don't know if that's a real place, but I
No,
want to go there.
they went to Bratislava and Slovakia. That's one of the issues that Czech Republic and Slovakia were upset with this film because they said that they painted the countries in a bad light.
It's a horror film, dog. That's like saying Romania is forever cursed because of Dracula, whatever.
Yeah, well, there's a really good tracking shot. I'll not mean to interrupt, but when they're like on the train, and it's like it goes from the train, and then the crane shot sees the entire like little village. I thought that was a really nice shot because I had the speakers behind, and Mikey got scared by the speakers behind the couch, but it went off. I'm like, oh wow, this is for a DVD. This is a good sound quality. Wow, this is like IMAX 4K 5D. Double D. Ooh, this is nice. Listen to that soundtrack.
And I honestly love it. It's so beautiful there. I always say that I want to go to Slovakia, especially specifically Bratislava, because I want to see, because they filmed it there. I want to go to Bratislava and I want to see all of these things. And honestly, like when it pans over the city and that music in the background, as beautiful as it is, that music, whatever they did with that score in the back, kind of made you feel uneasy about it, right? And so that kind of sets up the tone of what's going to happen. especially considering like when they open the doors and the girls throw boobs out. And I'm like, when I was that young, I'm like, I would just love to just walk out with my tits out. That'd be great. Like, why don't I live in Europe? I watch it so many times and I see there are points when I know what they're doing. And this is a business, right? It's business to get these people in
Yeah.
and basically farm them, right? So you know what they're doing. The girls make that scene, they make a bond with you, they lure you in, and they take you one by one. And my biggest thing is that Paxton could have avoided everything had he, because remember he was locked in the bathroom.
Yeah.
They were going to take him and they couldn't find him because he was locked in the bathroom with disco.
Oh, it wasn't the bathroom. It was a stock room because he was trying to go to the
Where?
bathroom, but he went to the wrong room.
Oh yeah, but he was whatever. But he was stuck in there, and I always think about that when I watch this movie because had he gotten out, he'd be dead. I mean, he
Yeah.
dies in part 2. Spoiler alert. But
What a waste.
Which pissed me off at first because I watched the second one first and then I watched the original. I'm like, what? So,
well, I think Eli Roth was with part 2, and this is just me speculating. Maybe he was just trying to amend some of the bullshit that he did with part 1. I mean, you know, as the character with men, whatever. But honestly, like part 2 disappointed me so much in the movie theaters. I can't tell you. When I watched this in the movie theater, part 2, I was so fucking mad at how fucking stupid. Like I was just pissed off at part 2. I don't know why it made me so mad, but part of it was that everybody always talks about who's the girl with the teeth, Mikey, you like from Scream?
Heather
Linda
Mazzaro.
Day O'Queef.
The sister, Randy's sister.
Oh, Rose McGowan. Oh,
No,
Randy's
right?
sister is Heather Mazzaro.
Yeah. When she's hanging from the thing and they're slicing her, you don't see anything happening.
Yeah.
You hear it.
You hear it. It's that weird. Yeah, because I mean, the second one was the first one I watched, but that was that girl from Welcome to the Dollhouse.
Yes,
So,
that's
the
why I
nerdy
love her
girl.
so much.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
such a
it was
good
kind of,
movie.
it was great. Yeah, but she reminded me of like Tina Belcher. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of like, oh, you're gonna
Yeah.
follow
was-
Tina in a hostel.
Everyone knew a girl like that in high school. That's why I thought it was so funny.
Yeah, and what's her name from Lucifer? And that's when I started watching Lucifer, I'm like, that's the girl from Hostel Part 2. So the problem, so there's a dichotomy when you look at both the films. Hostel 1, very in your face, lots of gore, disgusting, gross, whatever. Hostel Part 2, women. But the issue with Hostel Part 2 is when they shoot the kid in the head. That is the worst.
I thought-
Honestly, sitting there, yeah, you repress it, right? So you know the little bubblegum gang, which are actually street kids from part 1 that Eli Roth hired as the little bubblegum gang, all those little boys.
Oh, the Hood Site kids.
Yes, the Hoodside children. So they are actually in cahoots with the Elite Hunting Club. The Elite Hunting Club, everyone, for those of you who don't know, who don't watch these films, they're the people who run the business of people paying to go torture and murder people, right? So they're the Jeff Bezos of whatever. And so there's one scene where the kids had fucked up with something in Hostel Part 2, and this is why I hate watching this movie. I've only watched it a couple of times for this reason, but it's so bad to the point where they line all the kids up, and one of the guys from the Elite Hunting Club is throwing a gun in their face, and he's like, "Well, I'm going to shoot all of you." And one of the kids has to decide which kid are you going to take, and he pushes another kid out onto the floor. Take him. Shoots him in the fucking head.
Well, funnier than the Patriot.
But they don't like I mean the Patriot makes it dramatized, but like this is like an execution of a child, like that you show in a film. Like when do we see this? And this is why I think that
Well, you watched Untold Story. There's like seven
Yeah.
of them. So-
When they chopped the little boy's head off. I know. I had to go
And they,
walk
like,
in the other
pissed
room.
themselves
Thank
and
you.
stuff,
I
yeah.
appreciate you. I appreciate you, Jack, for all of that. But the Untold Story has different tone, different vibe. When you're watching Hostel Part 2, it gets really quiet. And then the camera pans in.
Mm.
And you're looking at the child, he knows. And I think that's probably the worst. So I don't know, like, when you're dissecting both films, which one you prefer. Hostel 1, definitely more gore. Hostel Part 2, it hits you more in you,
Hostel
right?
Part
So
3.
Hostel Part 3 is garbage. Don't watch it. Actually, watch it and laugh at it and fucking make fun of it. Please do.
Well, I wonder
Terrible
if
movie.
I wonder if they didn't go as extreme with part 2 because they thought maybe putting women in those situations like the men in the first one may have gotten more of a
See?
misogynistic
Sexist.
tone. Yeah,
Mhm.
kill everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe he was just like, he got so much shit about the first one being homophobic. He's like, I don't want to add people calling me misogynistic, so I'm not going to kill them as bad. I didn't get to watch part 2 for this episode. I've seen it before, and I don't remember.
Rewatch it. You'll love it.
Yeah,
You'll
well, I
like
have
it
to
more
watch.
than this one.
I have to watch Ticks tonight, thanks to Austin. So, but yeah, so I mean, we already talked about when they get there and they party and they have sex with all the women. And now we get into the part where they're actually being tortured. And so Oli disappears there's 2 girls from Japan. One's name is Kana, and I don't think we ever know the other one's name. But the other one disappears with Oli. And they're like, well, where'd they go? And then they get a picture.
The King of the Swing.
Oh, the King of the Swing.
The King
And
of the
so
Swing.
they send a picture of Oli and that woman to their cell phones, making it look like they left somewhere, but you can kind of tell that the picture's not 100% great in terms of if this is believable. And that's when he says, that doesn't make sense. Oli doesn't like Asian chicks. But, you know, the thing that Eli Roth does is he takes characters that typically people think are deplorable, like even in Cabin Fever, and towards the end, they kind of start redeeming themselves when they actually start caring about each other, because Paxton actually makes a switch when shit starts going down, and he's like making sure Kana's taken care of a lot of the time.
Yeah.
He even invites her out with him and Josh. And she's like, no thanks. And he like makes effort to like make sure she understands, you know, like what's going on or like what he's saying. So then Oli goes missing, and then Josh runs into the guy who touched him on the train at the bar, and then Josh goes missing because did we see him get taken?
Well, so with the whole thing with Josh is that whole scene at the disco, that's where we really started to realize like how they entrap these people, right?
Yeah.
Because they're drugging them, they're drinking. Josh is clearly something's wrong with him. That's why he left, right? He doesn't feel well. He wants to go home. And then the concierge, oh, Josh, let me help you. And then she puts him in a room, lets him pass out. Someone comes in and takes him. And so you kind of see that dynamic, and it's very subtle, which I think is brilliant in this kind of movie, because you have to watch this movie a couple of times to kind of see why are these people so fucking stupid? Like, what, you know, your friend is gone. You should could, you know, have some kind of whatever. And then obviously there was things revealed with Paxton, which is why he goes after Ghana, because he talks about that girl drowning that he remembers, right? We learned so much about Paxton, and we always think that Paxton's gonna be the first one to die. Which I always feel is, yeah, he's a fucking asshole. But and then Josh and my mom, and I'll never forget this. I made my mom watch this movie with me back in the day. Oh, she was very upset when Josh dies. Nice boy.
They killed the nice boy.
Well,
Nice
tell her
boy.
that's what he gets for playing Harry Dunn in Dumb and Dumberer. Remember
Yeah,
that?
I was there. Is that what he did?
Yeah, he played Harry.
Nice guys finish last and they die first. And this is where we get our first dose of extremism when it comes to the gore and violence, because he's sitting there and actually it's the guy from the train who has paid to kill him. Don't know why.
Well, no, he does that because he wants to be a surgeon. There's a reason he's this way.
No, I know,
He wants to
but
be a
like,
surgeon, couldn't be a surgeon, and now he has to.
Yeah, but
But
I don't understand why he tries to befriend him first. Like if he's
I,
hiring,
I don't think he knew. He doesn't
that it was
know.
going to be him.
Yeah, I don't think that guy knew. I never thought that he knew that he was going to be the one sitting in the chair.
Yeah, because ultimately you get to pick which nationality you want to take to your torture chamber, and Americans are the most expensive because we have the most plastic in us. I don't know.
Yeah, fucking
Inflation's gone
right.
up. I was going to say
America.
Americans probably not worth what they were worth.
Yeah, no, we've kind of cheapened a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, it's a commentary on how other cultures hate us, and you know that, right?
Oh,
Like,
that's true. So we were more
let's just,
expensive because we're more in demand.
yeah.
But our first dose of extreme gore is he's sitting in the chair, and I remember freaking the fuck out at this part. And the guy, the surgeon, goes down. You just hear 2 slices, and he gets up. He goes, "Okay," unties him. He goes, "You can walk out the door." And Josh tries to get up, and when he gets up, you get a close up of his heel, and the top part comes up, but the bottom part does not, which snaps his Achilles tendon. And he falls. I remember watching the movie and being like, "Is there more of that? Because I don't want to see that again." And basically Josh gets killed. I don't remember exactly what happened.
He slits his throat.
Yeah, he ends up slitting his throat.
Yeah. It comes around twofold because at the end, Paxton does the same thing to him.
You're jumping ahead. You're jumping ahead, mommy. So
Cut it
out. So we go back to Paxton. This is the part where I was like, "Oh, that's good," because as an audience member watching, you have the same reaction Paxton watches, which they checked Paxton out of the hotel because they thought he was going to get kidnapped, but he didn't. So he's like, "No, like I should still have a room." He's like, "Oh, it says you checked out." He's like, "No, I still need a room." So he goes and he gets a new room, and then he looks for Kana because she was supposed to meet them there so they can go to the train station together. And Kana's not there either. And so he's like, "What the fuck's going on?" So he goes to his new room, and there's 2 other girls who happen to be undressing just like the first 2 girls were. And they tell him the exact same thing: "We're going to the spa. You should come." And that's when he realizes something's not right because the other girls told me that too. And start putting the pieces together. He goes and he finds the other 2 girls, Svetlana and I forgot the other one's name.
Svetlana and
Hasbula, I thought.
No, it's not.
what the hell was that girl's name? Now I can't even remember.
Because one of them was
Anyways,
from Russia and the other one was from, I don't remember.
Svetlana was from Prague, but we had whatever. They're both very pretty.
They were pretty, but I will tell you, he runs into them in the bar and they don't have makeup on. I have no idea. I thought they were much more prettier with no makeup and looking haggardy. I was like, because they look believable. These look like everyday girls now, and they're so pretty when they look like that. So one of them decides to take him to the torture chamber and mask it as an art show. He gets there, he finds Oli dead, and finds out that not Svetlana, but the brunette was like, "I got a lot of money for you." And because I can only assume Paxton is Mexican and knows how to throw down like we all do, he was able to come out of this alive, barely.
And she's like, "I get a lot of money for you, and that make you wait." What did she say?
Make you my
that
bitch.
make you my bitch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good for her.
Which I was totally like, when they were at the bar, I was like, "They're beautiful. I love them." But when she said that and what happens to her later, I was like, good for him, because that's shitty. But yeah, he finds the dead bodies of his friends. He runs into another American who has purchased, I don't remember who he purchased to kill, but he's trying to kill somebody. Oh, he said, "Surprise me" or something. And it's a girl. And it's Kana.
It's Kana. And that guy is actually from Suits.
Oh, he looks familiar. Yeah.
He's in Suits. We all know him, and he's an asshole in Suits as well. But I just want everybody to know so I can.
Is he the one that died like a year or 2 ago?
Did he die?
Was he the one from he's in a bunch of horror movies, isn't he?
Like he was so weird.
My favorite vampire movie is the Stephen King's The Night Flyer, and if it's this guy that's in that, then it's the same guy.
No, that's a different guy. But this
Oh.
guy, the one you're talking about, he should have, like, if they make a Chuck E. Cheese live action movie, he should play
Rick
Chuck.
Hoffman.
Oh, I thought it was Miguel Ferrer. I don't know how to say his name.
What Chuck E. Cheese, Doug? What were you saying?
No, I'm saying that guy that plays in the movie that's like, oh, man, it's just like a fucking rush. I just want to use my gun. He has like the big buck teeth. He should, like, if they make a Chuck E. Cheese live action one, he should play Chuck E. Cheese. He looks like a rat.
Oh my
No,
goodness.
yeah, he's definitely a Rick Hoffman. He's 53, but he's in Suits, and that's what I knew when I started watching Suits. I'm like, that's that motherfucker from Hostel waving his gun around.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because that was the whole commentary, and he was like, Paxton told him to make it quick, and he was like, use the gun, use the gun. No, this is so fucking American, and then I like throw it, right?
Yeah.
Which is true.
Yeah. And
Right?
this part is very parallel to the beginning when they're at the red light district and they're talking about trying to get Josh to go have sex with a prostitute. The two guys go have sex with that one girl, and then the girl's having sex with another guy, and Oli opens the door and she's like, if you watch, you have to pay. And so this whole thing is also very similar to that because they're going down a similar hallway, and he opens the door and sees the other American killing Kahana, and he's like, get your own room. And I'm like, oh my God, this is just like the sex worker scene earlier. So I don't know what they're trying to say by that, but it's very similar.
Well, he said it. He's like, hey, I've been all across the country, and pussy's pussy, man. Every pussy's the same thing. All smells and tastes the same. Yeah, but killing is. There you go.
At the end of the day, so Eli Roth got the idea for this film because he was doing a study on some Thai shit or whatever. I don't even know. I remember when I did my speech on him, he was researching a culture that actually, or not culture, like a whole country that would allow you to pay to execute people, to shoot people in the head. So that's where he got the idea. And he was actually in Quentin Tarantino's swimming pool when he was telling Quentin Tarantino about it. And Tarantino told him, oh, you should write a script, blah, blah. And I'm still very confused on how Quentin Tarantino is a part of this film because he's not producing it. He's not. So he told Eli Roth to write a script, and now he presents it. I don't know. But
I think it's just a matter of getting it's kind of like when your parent co-signs a car because they have better credit than you do.
yeah.
They don't do anything, but it's giving you that one up from someone that's worth their word.
And I was surprised there was for Tarantino there was no gratuitous feet.
Yeah, there was. Remember when he tries to cut off her her toe?
Oh
yeah,
okay,
the toes. And so and that's the thing with this one is like there is a lot of, and especially with audition, we make up, and this was the whole thing with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre back in the day. We're making this up in our head that we think we see this and really don't.
Yeah.
And this film does a really good mix of we're gonna show you it or we're not, right?
Yeah.
But you're gonna be scared because you don't know if you're gonna see it or not. Like I think it's great. However, did you come on the I Saw the Devil episode? No, you didn't.
No.
I wasn't on that one either.
They showed him sticking the knife in his foot and popping out the Achilles tendon. There was no hidden
No
figure.
cut scene.
No.
That's
You watched
disgusting.
it and you heard it. And I
Oh.
said, we always think when we think of an Achilles tendon scene, you always think of Josh's scene in Hostel.
Yeah.
And watching that, oh my God. And I always said this like fucking throws it under the bus. Like we never see him slicing into him. We only hear it. And then Josh gets up and he falls.
Yeah.
And
There's it's funny. I know you guys are talking about the slicing of the Achilles tendon and then the toe being cut, but there's one scene in this movie that I remember when I first seen it, it gave me anxiety, and it's not even gory, but yeah, you guys haven't gotten to that part, but I'll interrupt when you get to it.
No, I was just, the movie's almost ending, and I was going to say the runner-up to the grossest part of the movie, or maybe it is for some people, I don't know, is he finds Kahana and her eyeballs sticking out. And that's not gross. She's just like freaking out. And I have no idea. Paxton is an educated man based off of the movie and what they've said he's doing. Decides to cut her eyeball off at the whatever that is that connects your eyeball to your body. And when he does, yellow shit fluid just starts coming out.
Yeah.
So gross.
Well, who knew eyeballs come?
Oh my God, yellow. But yeah, and what I will say is, even though this movie is torture porn and it's very brutal and gross, the violence is sparsely used. But when it is used, it's like, oh shit. So I think that's kind of respectful, because I think if it would have been a whole movie with scenes like that, we probably wouldn't even like it that much.
It's generally, it's a good movie. I love the beginning. I love that it sets you up that you forget where you're watching, because a lot of horror films do that, right?
Yeah.
You forget you're watching something disgusting, and then when it happens, you're like, fuck. So there's that. But also, I think that keeping it sparse, and when you do see something, it hits, I think is more effective than just having some kind of dreadful, which is sort of kind of what we have with Inside, right? Like Inside net is relentless. It doesn't stop
Yeah.
at all. I think we need a reprieve. I think as human beings, we need a reprieve from the violence and all of this hyper violence and the gore and everything. I don't know. I don't know. Doug, I know Doug doesn't care.
Yeah.
No, I was hoping it'd be gorier, honestly. I want blood spraying all over the walls and both eyeballs coming out. But no, because I guess you already hit it. But when Paxton has like the ball gag in his mouth and he starts puking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and he like takes the ball gag out real quick. And to me, I mean, that's like kind of the scariest thing. Like, not to get into my sexual history, but have you guys ever had like a ball gag in your mouth before and then started choking on like water and stuff? No? Okay. Upside down, backwards.
I've never choked on anything, I'll tell you that much.
No, with a ball gag. Like, okay, well,
yeah.
There was just one time.
But that could happen though. You're right. That physically could happen.
Well, you choke on your own vomit, which is terrifying. But no, I had an experience where I had like a ball gag. Like we were just fucking around, and I had a ball gag in my mouth, and I jumped in a lake, and some of that water got in there, and I kept I literally felt like I was dying.
Well, you have to take it off. Why would you jump in a lake with ball gag on? That's your fault.
Well, the early 2000s, and everyone's like, I dare you to do this.
The early 2000s.
Yeah, see, and I had
anything when it was the Wild West.
You remember those old Vivitar cameras with like 2.5 megapixels? Yeah. So it's somewhere, it exists somewhere on one of those, but who knows?
Well, we are coming up on the hour, so essentially the movie ends. Paxton gets Kana out. She sees how ugly she is without her eye, and she throws herself in front of a train. Bye, Kana.
I do the same.
Yeah.
No, she could have been in the Toxic Avenger remake.
Oh my god.
If I was like that, I'd throw myself in front of a fucking train too.
And then he finds the guy who killed Josh and then kills him in the bathroom. So we get our happy ending for Josh.
Well, there's an alternative ending.
Yes, I did
on
see
the
that.
DVD. I didn't see that one.
I never watched it, but apparently the alternative ending is the director's cut the film. Paxton follows the Dutch businessman being accompanied by his young daughter into a public restroom at the train station. After finding her teddy bear in the women's restroom, the Dutch businessman frantically searches the crowd for his missing daughter. Paxton is then seen aboard the moving train with his daughter, whom he has kidnapped.
I don't like that. That would have made it
I don't like worse. Him kind of. But the problem is, and there's a plot hole. Paxton never knew that the Dutch businessman took Josh. Doesn't know that he slit his throat because he slit his throat in the same fashion.
Yeah.
That Josh died. How would he have known that? That's a plot hole.
I think the throat slitting probably is just coincidence, because how else are you going to kill someone in a stall like that? But yeah, he doesn't know that the Dutchman was the guy that killed Josh. But my thing is, I don't like the ending with the little girl, because it's like, okay, he's just like gonna give the little girl a better place to live, or is he gonna kill her? I don't know. Like, just kill the guy. Save the little girl from having a murderous father and just kill him.
True. And true. And that's the thing. So we know that, and there's a lot of, okay, so Takashi Miike does a really good
Oh, a
cameo in
cameo. I
this.
love
I
seeing him.
I thought that was him. I am like,
Yeah.
this is for an extra coming on doing a scene. They're really doing some close up shots. I'm like, no, this has got to be some Takashi Miike. So,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Takashi Miike comes into that because I mean, obviously Eli Roth really adores audition. And
Mhm.
so we have to have him on here, which I thought was fun. Eli Roth inserts himself into the film when
Yeah.
they're in Amsterdam at the Weed Museum.
For a
We know
split
it's Eli
second.
Roth for a split second, but the bear too. We can't not see him. Um, but there's a lot of other things that with this film. So they stay in the hospital, room 237. So I never noticed this. I watched the movie 50,000 times. And of course, now that I'm old, I'm like, there's room 237, which is an allusion to The Shining that I had to talk
Yeah.
about.
How do you rate this movie overall?
oh, Hostel 3. It was pretty good. I liked Hostel
No,
3.
number one, Doug.
Oh, number one. Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. Last time I seen it was on this PSP UMD thing here, so that was it was a nice trip watching it. It definitely holds up because I watched Hostel 3 not too long ago, like maybe a few months ago, and
Horrible.
well, it's more dated. It's funny because that came out later, and that's more dated than the first two because that one feels like a ripoff of The Hangover. Like the three guys are
Oh.
so vanilla, unforgettable. Like the main guys in that movie, they're so white. They eat white bread on a mayonnaise sandwich. Um, and I remember it took place in Las Vegas with CGI roaches. So
Ew.
stupid.
Yeah, that
Aid, what
one.
about
But
you?
Hustle's great. That's one of my favorite films. I love it. As far as Richburn is concerned, I'll never not love this movie. I've always loved this movie. And so
Yeah.
whatever. It's fine.
Yeah.
Part three sucks. Two is great.
I will say that watching it this time, I respected it a lot more than I did before. When I was young, I just wanted, like, my typical superficial things. I did like it when I was younger, but I liked it better watching it as an adult. And yeah, so I say Hostel is 3.5 out of 5 for me. So give it a watch if you guys haven't seen it. If you have not seen it, we ruined it all for you, but watch it anyways. But yeah, with that, we're bringing our show to a close. So if you'd like to support us, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/slasherspod. If you want to find our merchandise from coffee cans to dental dams, you can find us at slasherspod.redbubble.com. You can find me on Instagram at horror and a half shell aid at pathologically aid, or Doug at Doug Bizarro. Also, Doug and I are going to be working together again on a different movie. So if you want to follow a film called Something Inhuman in the Woods, follow that. If you're on Facebook, join the group Noelia (film) close parentheses. And that's the film that we're working on also. We have a new month coming up next month, and we're not going to tell you what it is yet. But until then, stay cruel and stay hot, because it's fucking so hot outside. Which is maybe a little hint about what next month is going to be about. I don't know.
They
Ooh.
don't call it San Ambonio for nothing.
Daddy, yeah, bones in my ham. But anyways, on behalf of Aid and Doug, my favorite co-cunts, have a good day. Take a little time to enjoy horror. Goodbye and good die.
Bye.
All right.
Cool story, bro.
No.